Fortunately, it's not here today, but it didn't arrive, but you can get it on Amazon. So Trevor Loudon, Stealth, Kamala Harris's Communist Roots, and it'll blow you away. But I want to start with this. Does anybody remember when Virginia was a really, really red state? And then it went blue. Well, in 2005, pro-Chinese communists from a group called the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, the same people that started Black Lives Matter, set up a voter registration organization in Virginia called New Virginia Majority. And they went out and signed up 300,000 minority voters for the Democratic Party. Then they worked with Terry McAuliffe, the governor, to personally sign 200,000 pardons for Virginia felons. That's how they flipped Virginia. And they were using GIS computerized maps. They had every single precinct in Virginia mapped out. They could tell you where the Iranians lived, where the Puerto Ricans lived, where the Ghanaians lived, so they could send the right volunteers into the right households to maximize their get out the vote and their registration. Those maps were made by a pro-Chinese communist from the Freedom Road Socialist Organization named Steve McClure, who was a graduate of the George Mason University Geography Department. And he's been making those maps and still is working out of the Geography Department of Wuhan University, China. So they're using Chinese personnel to draw up maps to flip districts in Virginia. Well, guess what? The same communist network has the Carolina Federation, the New Georgia Project, Detroit Action in Michigan, black leaders organizing communities in Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania Stands Up in Pennsylvania. Now, you have met these people, folks. They're out there signing up people all over your counties, and they're basically part of a Chinese voter registration organization. And these are the people who openly boast they elected Biden-Harris in 2020. I'm going to say to you straight, Kamala Harris, as President Trump says, is a communist. But she's not just a communist, she is a Maoist, pro-Chinese communist. She has been a communist since the cradle. Her parents were both Marxists. She went to a communist social club called the Rainbow Sign when she was 5 and 6 and 7 years old. She is part of a Chinese-backed communist network that's been working in this country since Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition of the 1980s. The Maoist radicals from the League of Revolutionary Struggle and the Communist Workers' Party backed Jesse Jackson. They ran on a project called the Rainbow Coalition, uniting all the left-wing minorities. And then they elected Barack Obama on exactly the same program. They backed Stacey Abrams in Georgia, Andrew Gillum in Florida, and they have a whole network in Pennsylvania to flip this state. You need to understand we are in a revolution. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are at the center of it. And if they get control, just as Sebastian Gorka said, they're going to legalize 40 million illegal immigrants and give them citizenship and voting rights. They're going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to end the Electoral College, and they're going to use the organs of the state to come down on their enemies like you've never seen. Kamala Harris is as communist as Hugo Chavez or Fidel Castro or Mao Zedong. She is a communist to the core. And my book, Stealth, Kamala Harris's Communist Roots, lays it out in 392 pages full of documents, graphics. You'll read it in 2 hours because you won't be able to stop. And Tim Walsh is just as bad. You've got to understand, folks, the Chinese understand that President Trump was working with Japan and Taiwan and South Korea and Australia and India to take down the CCP. If he'd got a second term, he would have ended the Chinese Communist Party. He would have done to the Chinese Communist Party what Reagan did to the Soviet Union. And can you imagine the boon to the world? A free China, a China without the CCP, contributing all their talents and entrepreneurship and culture to the world. That is the opportunity that was lost. And the Chinese, when they saw what President Trump was going to do to them, gave us the COVID. Then they gave us the response to the COVID. You've got to understand that all the states that had the harshest lockdowns were the states with the most Chinese influence. California, Oregon, Hawaii, Washington, Illinois, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, and Massachusetts. Where the communists have most control, through your state government, through the industries they have here, or through the unions which they control, that's where you had the harshest lockdowns. Because it wasn't about public health, it was about destroying your economy. So you couldn't have a military to oppose China. And then they gave us Black Lives Matter, which was completely controlled by Maoist communists operating out of the Chinese consulate in San Francisco. And then they used those Black Lives Matter radicals and all these radicalized kids to stuff ballots in the key swing states in Pennsylvania and Michigan and Arizona and Georgia and Wisconsin. Who's seen the movie 2,000 Mules by Catherine Engelbrecht? Well, exactly what she said. Non-profits connected to China were using Black Lives Matter to stuff ballots in the main states. Well, my book lays it out exactly the same, but I found the same networks by following the networks from the Chinese consulate in San Francisco. You had the COVID from China, the response from China, Black Lives Matter from China, and the election was stolen from China. You need to understand that if they get in one more time, you're going to have 40 million illegals in this country, and you're going to have 100,000 Chinese nationals, Russian nationals, Iranian nationals, already here, Hezbollah, Hamas, ready to go crazy. Plus, Kamala Harris is going to recruit hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants into the US military. Somebody from Kansas ain't going to shoot, a soldier from Kansas ain't going to shoot a person from Missouri, but a soldier from Gabon or Mali or Iran or Uzbekistan is going to be quite happy to shoot Americans. So we got to understand this election is our last shot, folks, to win this peacefully. And I want this to be the first peaceful communist counter-revolution in world history. And President Trump can do that for us, folks. The situation we're in right now is very analogous to that which happened in Germany before World War II. Hitler wrote his book. He told us what he was going to do, and most people ignored him. And the German church, who could have stopped him, put swastikas in their churches and cowered before Hitler. And that cowardice led to a situation that killed tens of millions of people. And who had to sort out the mess left by the cowardly German Christians? It was American Christian boys and Canadian Christian boys and New Zealanders and Australians and French and Dutch who picked up guns and put on uniforms and charged in open beaches against Nazi machine guns. That's who sorted it out, folks. Now, who would you rather be? Because we're all going to get judged one day, whether you believe that or not. We're all going to have to stand before our Creator and give account for what we do. And a lot of Christians, unfortunately, have a very confused idea of what is sin. They think sin is doing bad things, stealing, lying, killing, adultery. But James 4:17, for he who knows the right thing to do but does not do it, for him it is a sin. Is it the right thing to save America? So any pastor who tells you not to vote, any pastor who tells you you shouldn't be involved in the civil government of your own nation, are they sinning? And what are the wages of sin, people? Sin isn't just doing the wrong thing. It is refusing to do the right thing when you are called upon. There's a little chapter in the end of the book of Revelations about the people who go to hell at the end of time. And they have a list, and they have idolaters and murderers and liars. But you know the very first group, the first two groups, it's the liars, it's the cowards and the faithless. God hates the cowards and the faithless more than anyone else. They go to hell first because a coward tells God you have no faith in him. Because if you believe in God and you believe in eternity, you fear nothing on this earth. How do you tell if your pastor is a faithful pastor? He will be a courageous pastor. And you have seen a lot of courage up on this stadium. You've seen a lot of courage here this weekend, folks. Faith and courage are what's going to get us through. When your people think about this, who would you rather be on Judgment Day? Would you rather be that good German Christian who went to church every Sunday and put money in the plate and was a good businessman, an honest man, a good citizen who paid his taxes and raised a good family, but on the day he was called to stand up to tyranny, he refused to do it? Or would you rather be the young 21-year-old factory worker from Allentown who died face down in a pool of blood on Omaha Beach? Who would you rather be on the day of judgment, folks? Who honored God more? One man was a coward and one man was a hero. Who would you rather be? Who do you think's more likely to please God? So, we are free today. We are free in this nation, as free as we are, because when the time came, your fathers and uncles and many people in here, Billy the Kid being one of them, but many of the people here, when the time came, were willing to put on uniforms and pick up guns and spend years at times overseas in horrible conditions fighting evil enemies. And while they were fighting for us, your mothers and aunts and grandmas and great-grandmas were working 14-hour days in factories and hospitals and shipyards and keeping the kids in schools and running the farms, and then staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning writing letters to their boyfriends and husbands and brothers overseas. Is it our obligation to make the sacrifices necessary that what they gave us is preserved? Is that our moral obligation, folks? Now, in Pennsylvania, I think we're going to need some divine help, right? And there was a lot of divine help in the American Revolution. The famous fog that came down on New York Harbor just at the right time. But this is my favorite story. Before the Revolution, in the Battle of Monongahela, out by Pittsburgh, 1,600 men died in that battle. It was the British forces, the colonial forces, led by George Washington, versus the French and the Indians. And George Washington was leading the troops, and he got bullets through his hat and bullets through his tunic because the Indians and the French were telling all their people, shoot that man. He is the leader. Shoot that man. And many years later, an Indian chief met George Washington in D.C. after the Revolution. And he said, sir, I was facing you at the Battle of Monongahela. I told my men to kill you, to shoot you. They tried and failed. I eventually told my men, leave that man alone. God has his hand on that man. He is destined for great things. Does this draw any parallels to a recent incident in Western Pennsylvania? When that bullet went past Trump, if it had gone a foot to this side, it would have been a big incident. If it had gone 6 inches this way, it would have killed the man. It grazed his ear. It drew blood. He went down. He pumped his fist in the air. Fight, fight, fight. Fight. If you didn't believe in miracles before that, do you today? That's right. If you didn't believe that God does not want this country lost, do you today? A brave man died that day on the ground defending his family. 2 other men were wounded. That incident tells me that God does not want this country lost, but we have to sacrifice. We have to do whatever it takes to preserve freedom, to honor our ancestors and preserve liberty for our children. Do you get the same message, folks? So I want to say to all of you, thanks for coming to Rod of Iron. Thanks to the people who put this on. A very strong church of believers who actually, unlike many Christians, are willing to fight for their beliefs. And God honors those who will stand up and fight. God does not honor cowards. God honors courage, because courage is proof of faith. So I want to say to all of you, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for fighting for Pennsylvania, fighting for this country, fighting for your family, fighting for my family. God bless America. God bless the great state of Pennsylvania. God bless every single one of you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Wow, look at that. I told you Trevor was going to impress. Listen, that was in 25 minutes. You got to buy his books. When you sit down and read these books, you're going to piece it together. How do these people get so successful when they're not successes? Because they're in these webs of deceit, horror, destruction. Like, it's against us, we the people. Thank you, Trevor. That was just awesome. Now we have a special treat. Amanda Suffolk. Okay, we do have a book signing. Finally, our people are back there. So once you're done listening to Amanda and the next couple speakers, because there is a little bit of a line, we do have Sebastian and Katie Gorka. They are signing books. You go right down along the tent here, and it's inside, out of the rain. So As I was saying about Amanda Suffolk, Amanda is great. Amanda gets into the trenches. She goes to Washington, D.C. She talks with lawmakers and dispels the myths that guns are bad and that gun owners are bad people. And recently, Amanda was elected to the NRA Board of Directors. So, Amanda also has Eye on the Target Radio, and she's the founder of the nonprofit Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition. So, Amanda, if you take center stage, please. Wait till you hear what Amanda has to say. Hell yeah!
Hey there, everybody. So, how many of you guys think that the Second Amendment is under attack? Right? How many of you have heard that, oh, that really doesn't apply, that was old, that should be, we should modify that because it was written for muskets. Have you guys heard that? Right? There is nowhere in those 27 words that says it's written for muskets. It is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What part of that do they not get? So here's the deal. Even though we look at the news and the news says, oh, we don't want TV shows that have guns. We don't want reporters who talk about guns. We don't want radio shows who talk about guns. We don't want guns in our schools. We don't want guns in our communities. We don't want guns in our neighborhoods. They're wrong because what happens is a firearm is a tool that helps us protect ourselves. And self-defense is a human right. We are worth protecting. Our families are worth protecting. Okay, so what's happened is that in about 200 years, the Supreme Court had not heard any cases about the Second Amendment. And our rights, the Second Amendment rights, started to be eroded. And they started in 1934 with the NFA, and then 1968 with the Gun Control Act, and then 1986, and then 1994. And it was erosion and erosion and erosion and erosion. And we were just losing a little bit. Why can't we compromise? It's just a little bit. Why won't you compromise? Why won't you be reasonable? I was recently asked by a reporter, and they said, so what gun restrictions would you be okay with? And I had to stop and I thought, and they said, so are there any? And I said, I'm never going to say never, but in the last 200 and some odd years, they have not come up with one that is acceptable to me. So I believe that the answer probably is none. So it is our responsibility and our obligation to stand for the Constitution and to defend the Constitution. And you watch the reporters defend the First Amendment. And they defend the First Amendment on so many levels. Oh, well, we have a right to this and we have a right to that. Well, do you know that recently the NRA was defending the First Amendment instead of the Second Amendment? Have any of you guys heard of the Vulo case? This is kind of getting in the weeds, but it really isn't. What happened is that New York State decided that they were going to persecute the NRA and all of its businesses because they dealt with guns. And so each one of us, has been in that exact same place. How many of you have lost your Facebook pages or have been banned or have the Facebook police or Instagram who's done something to you, or some social media says you can't say that? Those are all First Amendment rights that all of a sudden don't apply to you dirty little Second Amendment people. You know, the First Amendment only applies to people with an ink pen and not with a gun. Well, they're wrong. And the Supreme Court right now is showing them and telling them that they are wrong. So I want to give you a little bit of detail and a little bit of history on this, because it's really important, and you'll see it as things go. How many of you have heard of Heller versus D.C. and Dick Heller, the grandfather of the Second Amendment? You heard of him? So 2008 was the very first real case that went to the Supreme Court that said that a person had a right to a firearm on themselves or at their home or for protection. That was the first case. And then the Supreme Court was pretty quiet. Then in 2022, the Bruen case came. And the Bruen case is a case that I want you to pay attention to because you're going to hear it more and more in the near future. And I know this is sort of boring, but it's really, really important to all of us. And that is that the current Supreme Court justices are fighting and defending our right for the Second Amendment by saying that they cannot put in laws that go into place if they were not in place in 1791, in its text, or in its tradition. So how many of these crazy laws that they have put in, the 1934 Gun Control Act with machine guns and suppressors and short-barreled rifles, was any of that in place in 1791? No, it wasn't. So the 1968, the fact that we've got the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the BATFE, we have that. It was not in place in 1791, nor was serialization, nor were there definitions of ghost guns, because in 1791, if you wanted a gun, in a lot of cases, you went and bought the lock, the stock, and the barrel, and you built your own. So what's happened is they keep trying to put restrictions on us, and we're fighting back. And so there are a certain number of organizations that are fighting back. And let's talk about those for a minute. How many of you guys are members of the NRA? Okay, I see some. There's room for improvement. How many of you guys are members of the Second Amendment Foundation? Okay, I see some. There's room for improvement. How many of you guys are members of Firearms Policy Coalition? Gun Owners of America, USCCA, right? You start looking at it, there's all these organizations. These are the organizations, the boots on the ground, that are defending and fighting for your Second Amendment rights. And each one of us, needs to support them. I want to tell you a little bit about my journey, because this is really kind of a thing. As crazy as it is, I'm an engineer. And I just kind of lived this boring little life where I went to work and I engineered stuff, and then I went home and I sat on my TV and I watched TV. I sat on my sofa and watched TV, right? And all of a sudden, I started to hear from people that somebody ought to do something. And have you sat somewhere and you watch the news and you're like, somebody ought to do something about that? How many times have you thought that? Can I see a show of hands? If you looked at something and said, somebody ought to do something about that, right? Well, I want you to look around the room, because each one of you is somebody who ought to be doing something about that. So, and I am not saying by any means that you ought to do something about everything. I'm saying pick a lane, whatever that lane is, and then help out in that lane. So here I am. I'm an engineer. I just go to work. I go home. I started to realize that in my county in Ohio, that we were getting anti-gun legislation, just kind of smatterings here and smatterings there, and it was like, how's this happening? And I realized that guns and politics go together. And so what happened was I started to get involved in my local politics just so that I could stop them from doing restrictions about my ability to have a gun and for self-defense. So it's really kind of crazy, but I'll tell you right now that if you talk to somebody in Ohio and you ask them who cares about guns, they are going to mention my name. And it wasn't because I was going to work being an engineer. It was because all of a sudden I stopped to speak up and I got involved. And so when you heard Katie Gorka talk about the fact that she was that she was kind of living her life, doing her stuff, and then all of a sudden she had to get involved in politics. I backstage had to go talk to her and say, here's my card, because I too am an accidental activist. It was not on purpose. It was not planned. But man, can you make a difference? It only takes one person to make a big difference. And so when you sit and look to say, I'm only one guy, what can I do? You can call somebody. You can talk to somebody. You can invite somebody to go vote. You can walk door to door with a politician. You can get involved in an organization. In the last year and a half, I am now the chairman of the Republican Party of the County of Portage in Ohio. So as the chairman of the party, all of a sudden I have an opportunity to talk to the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, to the governor, and say the Second Amendment matters to those of us in Ohio on a level that I wasn't able to do before. Then in 2023, I was elected onto the board of directors of the NRA. And it was really funny. I got elected, and I started to ask questions, and seriously, from stage, I was told, what can you know about this? And I was like, well, I listen, I look, I talk to people, I read, I'm involved. I think I can know a lot about this, and I think I can invoke a lot of change. So, thank you. I'm going to say that if you are dissatisfied with where your politics are going, with where your Second Amendment is going, with where your community is going, get involved. And all it takes is a little involvement, and the next thing you know, you are going to be running it. Not that you may want to, but let me tell you, it's because the last guy who was obviously wasn't running it. So my message to each one of you is somebody ought to do something, and each one of us needs to do our little part in getting involved. I mean, you guys came out here on a cold, wet, drizzly day to support God and guns and country and Constitution. And I want you to give yourselves a hand for that, because that is an amazing thing that you're doing. So now the next thing is, now you talk to your friends about the amazing time that you had. And it will invoke a conversation that talks about God, because we've been told we're not allowed to talk about God. It talks about guns, and we've been told we can't talk about guns. It talks about country and Constitution. When you look at what's happening with the left right now, they are trying to stack the Supreme Court, and they are trying to modify our Constitution. They believe that it should be a living document. How many of you guys think that the Constitution is should be a living, changing document to follow what society is thinking currently? Exactly, all of that. The amendments that we have, the ones that had value were the first 10, and then pretty much after that, it started to roll off, right? So I just want to urge each of you that if you've got an extra dollar, go support one of these organizations that's in the front lines. That if you've got a little extra time, go look to see where you can volunteer, how you can help. If nothing else, just stop for a minute and say, how big is my heart, and how much can I get involved? And really, with each of us just doing a tiny little bit, we can protect the Second Amendment altogether. So can you guys say the Second Amendment with me? We're going to start again. So, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And on my watch, I guarantee, shall not be infringed. I'm Amanda Suffolk. Thank you very much.
Great. You've been something to do. All right, well, Amanda gave you some tasks to do. You got homework. Our next speaker has done some real things in the real world. Like, he was woken to gunfire in Sutherland Springs when the shooter was in the church. He's a sheepdog. He's someone that's there to protect us because he was armed. And he saved tens of lives in that church because he was armed. So Stephen Williford is here, and he's going to take center stage. He's also working for the GOA, Gun Owners of America, like Amanda's with the NRA. So if you notice the theme here, it's important for all of us to join and belong to these organizations because they're fighting for us, because obviously we can't go all the way to the halls of either your state capitol or Washington, D.C. They do. So, Stephen, you got your mic. He's ready to rip. Let her run.
Pennsylvania, let's hear it. So I want to tell you, you know, everybody's saying that y'all are key to this presidential election. That's an embarrassment, that you're a key to the presidential election. Texas is not a key to the presidential election because Texas is red. You guys need to get your friends, your neighbors, and people you don't know to the polls so that you overwhelm the left and that everybody knows Pennsylvania is red. It's time for you guys to step up and make a difference because we are the silent majority, and it's time to stop being silent. November 5th, 2017, coming up on the 7th anniversary, a madman came into First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, a 100-year-old church, and started shooting through walls and the windows of a church, murdering people. Went in the doors, shot through the doors, and went from pew to pew murdering people. I was home relaxing in my house, and my daughter came into the room and said, "Dad, doesn't that sound like gunfire?" Right away, your mind tries to make something normal out of something abnormal. And I said, "It sounds like somebody tapping on the window." She said, "Come into the other room." And as the instant I walked out of my bedroom, I realized it was gunfire. I ran to my safe, opened it up, and I had multiple choices of guns that I could choose to defend my community with. And I had built an AR-15 for competition. That was the gun I reached for. If you've got a choice and you know you're going into a gunfight, you got a choice of a pistol or a rifle, always choose a rifle. I grabbed an AR-15, a handful of ammunition, shoving it in the magazine, and ran across the street. And at that moment, I believed that God had his hand on me. People have asked me, "Were you scared?" And I tell them, no, that's the silliest question in the world. Was I scared? I wasn't scared, I was terrified. But the Holy Spirit kept me calm. How can you be terrified and calm? But I was, and as I ran across the street, I yelled out, and I truly believe it was God calling out a demon inside the church, because he had just shot Julie Workman through the breast. He had shot Chris Workman in the back, instantly paralyzing him, and he was pointing the pistol at Chris Workman, ready to pull the trigger, when I yelled. And Chris said his expression changed. He dropped his rifle in the church and came out shooting at me with a pistol. Right away, he came out, had on Class 3 body armor and a ballistic bulletproof helmet. My worst nightmare was realized. He started shooting at me, and I saw the slide move, the muzzle flash, and I saw the brass rolling out. I've seen a gun pointed at me, pointed different directions because I was an instructor and a competitive shooter. I had never seen one pointed straight at me. And God spoke to me and said, don't worry about that. Do what I sent you here to do. I ran behind a Dodge pickup, something about a 6.2 liter V8 Hemi that was really comforting at a moment. He hit the truck in front of me, he shattered the windshield of the car behind me, he hit the house behind me. Because of my AR-15, I was able to hit him 6 out of 6 rounds. We got in a gunfight. I won and he lost. As I was growing up, my father used to tell me, son, if you're ever in a gunfight, there isn't but one rule, and that's win. And then my father would say, he had a way with words, he would say, because tomorrow morning somebody's going to get up and eat biscuits and gravy. And he said, son, I love biscuits and gravy. If it was not for our Second Amendment and my ability to own an AR-15, because if I had run across the street with a pistol and confronted with Class 3 body armor and a ballistic bulletproof helmet, I would probably not be standing before you here today. But our Second Amendment guarantees that right. It doesn't say a right for a musket. It doesn't say a guaranteed for right. It says the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. And the left doesn't like me much because I use one of those horrible, nasty guns that they want to ban. And when asked about the situation, Joe Biden said he shouldn't have had that gun in the first place, talking about me. And my question is, if it would have been his wife and his children in the pews, would he have given any care what kind of rifle or gun I used to defend them with? He has Secret Service that watches over his family 24/7 and probably watches over Hunter Biden as he snorts cocaine up his nose. But you don't. And you have the right to own a gun, and they don't have a right to tell you what kind to own. It's time for this whole nation to step up and understand. Police, have we got any police out there? Any police officers? I respect the thin blue line like you can't believe. Any man or woman that would rush into gunfire, risk their life for you, and they don't even know your name, never disrespect them. But understand, they're second responders. You are your own first responder. You should be able to be armed and ready to defend yourself, your family, your friends, your neighbors, your communities, your state, and even your nation against tyrannical governments. That is the root of what the Second Amendment is about. Not just defense. It's defense of our whole nation against tyrannical rule, which is right around the corner. Ronald Reagan said it best, and I couldn't put it any better. He says, freedom is no more than one generation away from extinction. It wasn't passed down through the bloodline, but it must be fought for and preserved and handed down for the next generation to do the same. He said, I don't want in my twilight years to tell my grandchildren what it was like being raised in a free nation. And let it never be said that it's this generation that failed to stand up when tyranny rose. I worked for GOA. GOA for the longest longer than any other organization has said, shall not be infringed. We are the only no-compromise group out there that are fighting for your rights. Do you own a pistol brace? Thank the GOA. It's part of our organization that did the lawsuit, that got recognized and has a hold on the pistol brace now. We filed amicus briefs and helped Michael Cargill with the bump stock ban. We were the ones that when the bump stock ban went into effect, we were fighting it then. And we followed it all the way to the Supreme Court. Shall not be infringed means that. It doesn't matter, you may say, I never own a bump stock. What difference does it make? It makes a difference because it's being infringed. And they can't do that. They say, well, the government gives you the, no. The Second Amendment wasn't the government giving you right for anything. The Second Amendment was recognizing that the right to bear arms and defend yourself and your nation was a God-given right. And it restricts the government from doing anything about it. Can I get an amen on that? So the pistol brace ban, the bump stock ban, they all went away. Now we're looking at the frame and receiver, and the Supreme Court has just heard that. What I understand is they may not rule in our favor on that one, but we'll continue to fight. We'll continue to fight. We just got the ban saying that you must, in New York, you must put up a sign in your business welcoming gun owners, as opposed to putting up a sign telling them you can't come in here. We beat that one already in court. We've got red flag laws that we have beat in New York, Prop 114 in Oregon, and the in the business of. So if you inherit a gun from your grandfather and you decide you don't want it and you want to sell it or give it to one of your children, you could be charged with 10 years in prison and $250,000 fine. The GOA filed in Amarillo, Texas, the Fifth Circuit Court. We filed and the judge agreed that all the plaintiffs, we wanted it to be nationwide, but the judge said only the plaintiffs. And the plaintiffs are GOA members. We're the only organization that filed on that. All GOA members are exempt from the ATF enforcing this on you. And we will fight. They said, well, will the ATF appeal it? Well, of course they will. You know why the ATF will appeal it? Because it's your tax money fighting the GOA. They're using our own tax money against us, and how dare they do that? We need to pass some sort of law that says if the ATF or any other outfit agency decides to use the tax money to fight against we the people, then it comes out of their budget. I want to thank you guys so much. It means so much to me. We need to get out there. We need to vote not only for the president, because Kamala Harris will do horrible damage to the Second Amendment. We need to vote for Donald Trump. But not only voting for Donald Trump, we also need to vote for congressmen and senators all the way down to your local school board. It's time to take this nation back. We, the conservative Christians, have been asleep too long. It's time to take this nation back. Please, I'll be out at the booth at GOA. come by. Please come by and sign up. Be part of the solution. They say 10 million hunters that have hunting license in this nation. 10 million aren't even registered to vote. Wake up. It is time to get fired up. Make it happen. Thank you very much. Please come support us.
That's our sheepdog, Stephen Williford, GOA, Gun Owners of America, which I'm a life member at GOA, life member at NRA, and a life member at FOAC. So, you know what? This is the owner's manual to the United States. In it is the Declaration of Independence, which you know the thing, when in the course of human events. But then you also have the Constitution of the United States that starts off, we the people. So this is it. This is how simple it is to organize and manage the United States. What that bureaucracy has grown into is not certainly part of this. So we need to take things back. Our next speakers are Bob and Dorothy Byerly. They're friends of the organization, the Rod of Iron Freedom Festival. But they also publish, if you remember Benjamin Franklin published a newsletter. Well, Bob and Dorothy publish a newsletter called Our Town. And it's in every cash register in the local market here. And as you walk into these places, you get to read their opinions, which everyone is entitled to Bob and Dorothy's opinion. So Bob and Dorothy, you want the portable mic or you want the... There you go. You guys got 10 minutes. Bob and Dorothy.
All right, yes, we do a publication called Our Town on subscriptions all over the country. We're in 9 different markets, about 300,000 readers a month, and that's enough of that. I just want to relate to you, because I've been told by 10 people already that I've got to keep this really, really short, so we will. Dorothy and I love God and love this country, hate the government, not for nothing. We're equal haters, Democrats and Republicans, because if the Republicans were actually good, they would have defended President Trump when the election was stolen from him 4 years ago. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. You know who to vote for. But I actually had an experience. We were watching a television program, and for the first time in my life in a very, very long time, I actually doubted God's existence. And it wasn't because of something horrible happening or that. We're watching a program where they were showing what we can see in the universe with our new telescopes. And they had developed a technology where they could study stars, and they could see planets blocking out that star, so they knew that there were many more systems out there that had planets revolving around the star. And I don't remember the exact number, but I believe they said there was something like 4 million of these systems out there that could be supporting life. Now, it's one thing when I think of God and I think of our world, and God created the world and he created man and woman, and I was okay with that because, you know, it's just this little ball. But when I saw the vastness of the universe, and not only our universe, and then they're telling us there's multiple universes, and then to think that there was one being to create all this, it took a moment to pause and to think how powerful and how big is our God. I mean, he's not only looking after our little planet, we're talking multiple universes, millions of stars out there with planets revolving around them. Can you even comprehend a God so big and so powerful that not only did he create our little solar system, but he created this all. And this is a person we can talk to, and that he listens to us, and that he answers our prayers. And I know there's a God. I know there is. But to think of that vastness of everything that is out there and everything that God has to be dealing with on every moment and every day, all of our prayers are not only on what's going on in our little world, but throughout the entire universe. A God that's doing all that took the time, that at the precise moment, at the right moment, with all the else going on, not only in our world, not only in our galaxy, but throughout everything, took the time to turn Donald Trump's head. Don't waste that gift. Thank you.
The microphone's
All right, Rod of Iron Patriots, here we go. We got some great speakers and beautiful performances for you for the remainder of the day. And right now, I'd like to welcome the European Choir to the stage. Let's give it up for them, European Choir.
Okay, we okay, go with it. Okay. Oh, you got to write it down.
Hi, everyone. As European citizens, we are historically connected to the United States. Like America, our respective nations are under attack by evil forces. So we are deeply concerned that we might lose our freedoms completely. So today, we are standing here representing France, Poland, Spain, United Kingdom, Austria, Italy, and Germany. And we stand with you and encourage you to never give up, but to fight on.
Guy, this offering song is for a free world. A world where there is peace, unity, and healing for everybody. And we'll start in America with President Trump on November 5th. You vote.
Sing the new
Hey, how about the European choir? Let's hear it for the European choir. This is a global movement for freedom, right? Global movement for the kingdom. And next up, we have the Japanese choir, and they're going to give a beautiful salute to American veterans. Let's welcome the Japanese choir, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are from Japan. And we are so excited to be here at the Rhode Island Freedom Festival in this critical year of 2024. And it is an absolute honor to be in the presence of all the American veterans and patriots. Today, we would like to perform 3 songs for you. would like to dedicate the next song to veterans who fought for freedom and peace in Asia. Thanks to those who fought like you, our esteemed Reverend Sang Myung-moon could be liberated from communist North Korea. We sing to you our deepest respect and gratitude. Hit it! Got it! Thank you. We are praying that America will rise again as a strong, unified country that respects and protects the God-given freedom of speech, the right to assemble to worship God, and the right of self-defense and to bear arms. We were not born here, but we believe that America is the last stronghold of freedom for the whole world. We also strongly believe that Mr. Trump is the only president who can stop the threat of World War III that the world is now facing. That is why we support President Donald Trump to be restored as a true leader of this nation. So let us all sing the last song together for the glory of God and His love for America.
Please call Trump, 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 Trump. We love 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 Trump. We need 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 Trump. Everybody, fight, 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 Thank you so much. Japanese team, Kyotsuke. That's Bob. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless USA. Woo! Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you all.
You are awesome. You rocked it. That was beautiful. Beautiful. Really good. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. Good playing. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. You got it, buddy. Yeah. Come on, buddy.
How about the Japanese choir? At a loss for words after something like that, and it seems like the world needs Trump. God bless them for coming all the way from Japan to be here with us at the Freedom Festival, Rod of Iron Ministries. God bless our Japanese patriots. And thank you to them for honoring our veterans and our heroes. Next up, we have the Korean flag dance, and they'll be honoring Korean War veterans. Let's give it up, the Korean flag dance. Thank you.
Okay, next we prepare the one song is a Country Road. Thank you.
West Virginia, Blue Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is older than the trees, younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country road, all my memories can along home. Minus lady, stranger to Boulevard town. Dark and dusty, painted on the sky. Misty takes the moonshine, tears up in my eye. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads, I hear her voice in the morning hour. She calls me. The radio reminds me of my home far away. Driving down the road, I hear her saying that I should have been home. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads, country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads, take me home. Country roads, take me home. Country
What another beautiful display of global patriotism and global freedom. Can you feel the Spirit of God in this room with us here at this festival? The Spirit of freedom and the Spirit of God across the entire world. And talking about the Spirit of God and being a warrior for Jesus Christ and the Almighty Father, the kingdom of heaven, it is my privilege and my honor to introduce our next special guest. He is a Marine, Brother Craig Sawman Sawyer, he was a Marine veteran, a former Navy SEAL, sniper, a combat instructor. Brother Craig Sawyer is the owner of Tactical Insider, which brings technical advice on weapons and combat to Hollywood films and actors. In April 2017, Sawyer founded Veterans for Child Rescue, V4CR, a beautiful organization that is fighting with Brother Craig. They're fighting together to protect the most innocent, the children, the precious, precious children. It is a nonprofit organization to help raise awareness of child sex trafficking and fight child exploitation in the United States. So very important. Through his efforts with V4CR, Sawyer began production on a documentary feature-length film called Contraland. This film was released on May 8th of 2020. It is now my great privilege and honor to welcome my brother, our brother in Jesus Christ, Craig Sawman Sawyer. Brother Craig, thank you.
Very kind words. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you all. It's an honor to be invited here among you, lovers of freedom and liberty, peace. Our Holy Father, Jesus Christ, it's an honor and a privilege to share the stage with so many veterans, warriors, heroes, and just people who appreciate what we have in this nation. So I'm grateful. And having traveled around the world in 60 countries, 7 different agencies over the years, being a part of so many things, I've seen a lot of injustice. I've seen genocide campaigns. I've stood in mass graves. I've seen atrocities. And in that, I want to ask, just by a show of hands, everybody, who here has actually been in a war zone at any time in your life? Just show of hands. How many of you have been in a war zone? Okay, I just tricked you. In love, I tricked you. The rest of you, put your hands up. All put your hands up. You were born on a battlefield. Do you understand me? Do you understand what I'm talking about? We are spirit beings. From the moment you were conceived, from the instant you were conceived on this fallen planet Earth, you were under attack. You were under spiritual attack. Your health was under spiritual attack. Your family was under spiritual attack. Your nation was under spiritual attack. All of it. Now your finances, everything. It is warfare. It is high-level spiritual warfare. As a Navy SEAL, I would never set foot on a battlefield without a thorough intelligence briefing. It would be madness to do so. Why do we think we have physical solutions to high-level spiritual conflict between the creator of everything and Satan himself if we're not tuned in to the source of the Almighty God? So look, this is my sword, my Holy Bible, the very Word of God. I will not go on to the field of battle without a weapon or my intelligence briefing. This happens to be both. I would encourage you all, never go a day without reading and consuming and learning and growing closer to your Creator. That's where the only solution can lie, in this global Marxist, and this, by the way, Marxism, in my opinion, is Satan's politics. Most refer just communism, they call it communism, or if they want to sugar frost it, they'll call it democratic socialism and promise that it's just gentle communism, but really it's the guerrilla rape van of politics, and it's global Marxism. That's what they're all after. You don't have to research more than about 5 or 10 minutes. You'll realize that's where it's all heading. And in global Marxism, according to Karl Marx and all the sick people that conceive that, there is no God. There's no real family unit. The state becomes everything, and it's all about tyrannical, total control, and it's utterly wicked and demonic in its very conception, and in its application, it's utter tyranny. And right now, we have an election to decide which way this country's going to go. They've already gotten this thing mostly done. So unless we climb back out of this hole, we're in serious trouble. But I want everybody focused on where our solution actually lies. So that's our situation awareness. We are in a spiritual conflict. It's manifesting in a physical form. being played out through an information war. I'm sure General Flynn talked about fifth generation warfare. He and my friend Boone Cutler wrote the series of books on that. We have to understand they are fighting to overthrow our nation without a single shot fired. They don't need tanks, planes, and guns. If they can infiltrate all of our institutions and turn them against us and program us and condition us to give up our freedom without a single shot fired in our defense. That's what's happening. That's why they've bought up the educational institutions. That's why they own big tech. That's why they censor you when you post anything that's empowering to the citizens on social media. They have to own all of these things. They have to own the news media. Because if the truth were known, there wouldn't be any contest to it. Nobody would vote for slavery wittingly. Satan is the father of lies. When he lies, he speaks his native tongue. So he spins it. Everything is deceit. Ephesians 6:12 says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, rulers of this world, spiritual wickedness in high places. We are fighting spirit beings, the fallen ones, who are motivating weak men to carry out evil against all of us. That's the nature of the conflict we're in. So now you can all, anybody ask you, have you ever been to war zone? Brother, we're in one. Sister, we're in one right now. We were born on a battlefield. We might as well know how to fight back. Arm yourselves. Inform yourselves. This is your power. If you love people, you want them empowered. You want them to be able to defend themselves and find the truth. So that's what my motivation is for how I'm speaking today. And I see something. When we're running our operations against child predators with law enforcement, federal, local law enforcement, up to 9 agencies at a time, we're taking these predators off the street, arresting them, putting them in prison to rape no more, with a 100% conviction rate. And I'm going around trying to shake people awake. Sir, ma'am, do you realize this is at industrial scale? Our federal agencies like HHS are contracting companies like MVM to covertly move children from the border deep into our continental United States, covertly, delivering them to predators. Nothing's being done about it. Tarlee Rodas and others briefed Congress in session on TV about it. It's still not being stopped because there are too many people making money on the corrupt status quo. So the United States has become like a meat grinder for children. And this is an ancient, demonic war on children that is all about power. It's all about power. It's not so much about sex. There's always a sexual element to it, but it's a defiling of God's most precious and innocent children. So if you look at why people feel cowardly, why they turn away and shake and tremble in fear instead of confronting and facing evil, I want to share something with you about my comprehension of our Almighty God. I have some friends that are scientists. Some of them are into quantum physics, and I'm fascinated with that. And I've had discussions with them, and I've consumed quite a bit online. And I see scientists out there saying that when we go with these electron microscopes and we examine smaller than the atomic level, subatomic level, the quantum level, and physics, how molecules work, how the particles work, what's it actually made of. When they get smaller and smaller and smaller and examine how these things behave, they're starting to realize, hold on a minute, we don't even know if there's actual physical matter at all. What we're finding at the smallest level is just energy vibrating at different frequencies. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And you may say, Craig, why are you talking to us about quantum physics at a freedom rally? Hang on a minute. Like my friend Matt Marsden would say, wait a minute, hang on a minute. If you comprehend what the scientists are saying, they're saying, hold on, there doesn't even seem to be any physical matter at all. It's energy vibrating at different frequencies. We don't know why this energy is vibrating. And we don't know why the next piece of energy is vibrating at a different frequency and the next one a different frequency, and why this leather feels different than this plexiglass. We don't understand why things behave the way that they do at the base level, why these energies don't spin off, why they don't change frequencies and turn into something else, why they stay where they are. We don't know why it's doing what it's doing or why we perceive it as physical. It's almost as though they're saying it all exists in the greater consciousness of an infinitely greater being, willingness to behave this way. And I'm like, that is my God. You are starting to comprehend our Creator, the Most High God. He wills everything. He spoke this universe into existence and everything and everyone in it. Everything that has ever been or will ever be. So think about it. Satan is a created being. No created being can overcome their Creator. They can't even comprehend the full scope of their Creator. It's an impossibility. So Satan has no power over the one who created him. So Satan's clock is running out. His time is getting short and he's panicking. You can watch it happen. So when you comprehend that our God, our Creator, our Yahweh Sabaoth, our Jesus Christ, spoke everything into being, and none of us exist microsecond by microsecond unless He wills us to be in existence and draw our next breath, then you'll realize I shouldn't fear Satan because he's a created being too. He's only at the mercy of the Almighty just for a little while longer. And all the rest of us too. So why would I fear? Why does the Bible say 365 times not to be afraid? Because once you comprehend who He is and how vast, how almighty and all powerful He is, how could you be afraid? Who could counter Him? He's given us free will. Sadly, many men choose to do evil. And that's why we're seeing things unravel and spin apart. But we, followers of Christ, we, the children of the Most High God, should walk in that confidence and that faith, knowing who our Father is. Once you grasp that, you will have no more fear. You will carry out His will in bold conviction, without fear, and in love, because that's the way He would have us do it. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And I want to share something else. If you guys will just get ready to roll this video, what you're about to see is inside the womb, under a microscope, when a male sperm conceives, and when it inseminates that female egg, there's a spark of life. When that soul ignites, when that new being first begins to exist, there's a detonation, there's an energy flash there. I want you to witness this because it's very touching. It'll let you know why this is happening to the children, what we're seeing on TV and elsewhere. Guys, go ahead and roll that video for me if you would. Isn't that beautiful? That's the newest kid in the world right there at that instant. Precious, innocent, pure, straight from the Father, straight from the throne room. So in His kingdom, I was praying on my birthday, October the 5th. I got up pre-dawn. I'm worshiping my Creator, and I'm praising Him for all that He's doing in our organization, our family, all the healing, the predators He's allowing us to catch, the disruption He's allowing us to have against those who do evil. And I'm just worshiping and I'm praying and I'm just loving Him back as I do. And it came to me, son, these little ones, when I first breathe that soul into that egg, that soul is the highest ranking human on the planet at that moment. You humans perceive it backwards in many ways. It's not about political clout or horsepower or money or human rank. That soul, when I breathe from my ruach, from my lungs, straight into that egg. That little soul is the closest one to me. From my throne room, pure, holy, sacred, not yet perverted, poisoned by this fallen earth. We were born into a fallen world. And we could draw closer to our king, and we should. But at that instant, that new kid, that precious new soul, is the highest ranking as far as spiritual purity in his kingdom. If you understand that, the beauty, the preciousness of that little one, now you'll begin to see why those who are wicked, those who are evil, make war on the children, the most precious and innocent among us, if possible, while still in the womb. Now do you see? Do you see? It's spiritual. It's not about health care at all. That's a lie. There are circumstances where medical intervention has to happen, and it's a tragedy. But as a species, we're not to eradicate our offspring like that. That's not his way. Those precious little ones, we're not to do that. Okay? So So that's why there is a war on children, and there is an absolute war on children being made. And we fight it on many different fronts. There are so many who will be part of secret societies. They want to be in these groups. They want to be in witches' covens. They want to be in satanic cult groups. Oh, and by the way, we're in Pennsylvania, one of the most demonic states, where there's the most occult and witches' covens and satanic cult groups of any state in the continental United States. Ohio, Pennsylvania, particularly heavy. So I guarantee you, someone here, probably more than one, are in a satanic cult group or witches' coven. Anybody, if you're proud of being a witch or in a satanic cult group, you want to just raise your hand and we'll just say hi to you? Okay. If you are, come to me later. If you realize that you're going to hell and that there is salvation, that your Creator loves you and wants you delivered from what you're doing, and that you are utterly doomed right now, you're on a path straight to hell, come to me. I'll pray with you and we'll get you out. Okay? Just as an aside. Every time we do this, we find there are people there because they scout. They come to these things. They want to make sure they know what everybody's doing. So a lot of the Nazis settled here. After World War II, Operation Paperclip, we brought 1,600 Nazi scientists over the United States. Some of them were rocket scientists, Werner von Braun and all those. We started NASA. Others on the psychological side, they came here. And a lot of them settled in Ohio, Pennsylvania. And they torture and rape and program their own children. It's all trauma-based programming. It's a long story, but there's a lot of very wicked stuff happening to children in this part of the country. And it's everywhere, by the way. It's not nothing against your state. It's just geographically, this is where they have multiplied exponentially. So I thank God that we were able to run a joint sting operation in Nashville 4 months ago. We got 1 arrest and 70 more warrants on other predators. 70. But what it was like was there's so much corruption there, and it's been kept so quiet. It was like this operation punctured a bladder of sewage that began spewing out. And there was a reporter that came out in defense of the child trafficking and the multi-billion-dollar corruption in that region that's being systematically set up there. There's a law enforcement officer who's been investigating high-level organized crime in that region for 14 years. State-run Tennessee Bureau of Investigations came in, seized all the evidence to make it go away. They raided the law enforcement, the police department, and the chief's house, and they took all the evidence to make it go away. The locals are crying foul. They're saying, we've been praying for exposure of this corruption and correction for 20 years, Craig. Please don't stop. Well, we're not stopping. There's a lot. This is just getting started. But God Almighty is directing us to where these hot spots are happening, and we're rattling their cages and puncturing their defenses. Well, we're just humble, obedient servants. God's doing it, is the truth of it. We're being led there and doing what the Almighty allows us to do in our service to Him. I'm just smart enough to realize that it's not me. It's So the Diddy parties is connected to what's going on now in the country music business. It's the same gatekeeper thing as the Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein model. It's intel collection, it's blackmail, it's videoing adults, the targeted individuals doing unspeakable harm to children, raping them or whatever. And there are a lot of different things that they do. And then they blackmail those people with that video. That's why you and I don't get what we vote for anymore, because so many of the people in D.C. have been targeted in this way, and they're on video raping children and doing other things. All right, the Diddy parties, you see all the vile filth coming out of that, same thing. If you want the contract, you're a young aspiring rap star and you want the record deal and all the big show, come to us, do the drugs, rape the children, let us rape you, let the whole thing happen all on video, and then we control you. And it's a dominion over that, not only just over that person physically and with the contracts and the money, but higher than that spiritually, over that soul. It's spiritual attack. It's happening in Hollywood everywhere. So we're starting to uncover this more and more. It's all coming out. Wheels are coming off the bus. So again, 365 times the Bible says not to fear. We need moral courage. And again, back to my explanation, the quantum physics, who our Father is. We need not be afraid. How could you be afraid if you comprehend who He really is? Anybody that can speak everyone and everything into existence is not someone I want to cross. That's someone I want to be particularly close to, especially when all hell is breaking loose on earth. When our nation has turned from our Creator and flown flags of perversion that are an abomination before the Lord over the highest institutions of our land, over the capital, some of the biggest cities of our land, flags of perversion as an up yours to our Creator, I tremble. And when I realize we are defiling and destroying children at industrial scale, His most precious, I tremble in anticipation of what's going to happen, because He judges entire nations, not just individuals. How close are we to receiving His judgment? I pray that we get change in next month, and that we repent as a nation, that we get real leadership, and that we turn this ship around. But whatever happens, come what may, we are best navigating it in gratitude. Scientists have studied the different emotional states in the laboratories, and they're realizing that the highest vibrational emotional states are love, gratitude, compassion, and the lowest vibrating emotional states are things like anger, hatred, fear, lust, envy, greed, all of that. So look at the two kingdoms. The kingdom of heaven, love, compassion, gratitude. Isn't that how you imagine your Father? That's what the Bible tells us how to be. When we're like that, we get healthy. Our lives are productive and better. When we're vibrating low, down in the hatred, fear, we are furthest from our Creator. So we get to choose. And if you choose to walk in gratitude, you're a better you navigating whatever that challenge may be. So all we need to do is have faith in our Creator, be obedient to what He wants us to do, seek His will, ask Him, Father, what would you have me do? What would you have me do? And then do it. You'll be staggered at the blessing that falls upon you. Spread His love. His kingdom is love. There's a lot going on in this world. It's all take, stomp, 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 abuse, abuse, abuse. His kingdom is love. Give it. Share it. You can't outgive God. The more you give, the more you raise up, the more you help, the more you bless, the more He will pour on you. This is His way. This is His way. So I got one of my teammates, Justin. He happens to be right here running the camera. See him. He's got brochures, pamphlets to give you more information, to empower you further and connect and network so we can rise up together against this evil and salvage our constitutional republic under God again. And I would encourage you, pray without ceasing. This is a time like no other time. Pray without ceasing. That is biblical. Let's do that. In all things, give thanks. Good days, bad days, give thanks. You will be a better you for it. And for all of this, I am grateful. Folks, God bless you all. Thank you for your time. USA.
give a big hand for Brother Craig Sawyer, who's in a battle against evil to fight for God's children. I want to invite you all with me right now. Give me 30 seconds of your time. Let's pray together. Ready, everybody? Let's do it. Father God, we invite you here in this room today to be with us here at the Freedom Festival as we close out the show and as we march forward in your powerful and righteous name. We ask you to, with your divine guidance, to bless us, Father, protect us, and give Brother Craig Sawyer your armor, your righteousness, the power of your kingdom to protect God's children. The children are worthy, and we will protect them until the end of days. In Jesus Christ's mighty name, amen. Amen. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And up next, we have Mel Kay. She's going to be joining us on a live video. And here to introduce her is David Kahn. Let's welcome David and Mel Kay. Thank you.
Hello, fellow patriots. Just real quick, how many of you know the Mel Kay show? Came to see that? Okay. Quite a few people. If not, it's live on Rumble and all the channels. Mel Kay's been here every year for 4 years. She was caught up in the storms in Florida and she couldn't make it. She really is sorry, so she sent a video. And she really speaks clearly about what's happened in America. Ever since JFK, we've actually been under control. So now's the time to take back control of our country, as you've been hearing all weekend. And she said and we know this, it's not Democrat, Republican, left, right anymore. It's really the global elite versus us. So it's time to stand up and let God lead us, like General Flynn said. So we're going to have her on a video. She's written a book called Americans Anonymous, because Americans are we're like drunk. We're like in a sickness, and we need to turn it around. So we need to raise up from every community. So that'll be on the screen, the Mel Kay Show / Americans Anonymous. So without any further ado, welcome Mel Kay with her message.
Hello, everyone at Rods of God. I've been there for the last 4 years, and unfortunately, we are in Florida, and we did not expect not just the hurricane, but tornadoes flying by us and all of that. So I am so sorry with travel and chaos. I did not end up coming this year, but I want to thank you so much for coming. These are the best people. Thank you, Tommy Gunn, and everyone with Rods of God, and all of you that came out. I would do anything to be there. You know, that's my favorite part, is meeting all of you guys. But unfortunately, I just wanted to say thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for standing up and speaking up and showing up. We are at a precipice in the United States of America and around the world right now. We are truly in an endgame, a spiritual battle between good and evil, right and wrong, and God and forces beyond that are trying to destroy our way of life. The controlled demolition of America is rolling along, as is the liquidation of this country. And I just really want to talk about what the stakes truly are, because not enough people are defining them exactly as they stand. And I feel that that is what I do best, which is I want people to fully understand that the decision that you are making, when people ask you who you are voting for in 2024, your answer better be yourself and your family and this country and your future and the future of this nation and peace and the future all around the world. This is not about America. You know, Donald Trump often says they're not after me, they're after you, and I'm in the way. Well, I will tell you, it is way bigger than that. They are not after America, they are after the world, and America is in the way. Our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our sovereignty, our history, our borders, language, culture, all the things we value, all the things we share, which far outweigh anything we do not, is at stake here. Because what they're not telling you, while they say this and that and barely ever talk about the issues, is that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden signed on to make sure that by 2030, the United States not only achieves the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, but that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be leading it. It is right on the White House website. This is absolute truth, And the truth, even bigger than that, is that Barack Obama in 2015 sold our country out, signing us on to Agenda 2030 and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And everything since then has been a slow march towards the end of our sovereignty, our freedom, and us standing for human rights and rights of people, not just here, but everywhere on planet Earth. Everything that they have done has gone back to that one time we can all remember when George H.W. Bush walked on the floor of the United Nations and announced to the world that we were going into a new world order led by the United Nations. What many people didn't understand is A, he meant it, and B, he meant for them. Because the Sustainable Development Goals are to sustain something that none of us ever agreed to. There are authorities and people around this world that do not deserve to be listened to or given the respect. The truth is that the United States of America is supposed to be by the people, for the people, with the consent of the governed. Well, that ended the day that our president, John F. Kennedy, was shot in 1963. I believe the coup against America began there, and it will end, God willing, in a few weeks. And we will finally be able to vote for ourselves and take back our countries, because the swamp is not only in D.C. D.C. is certainly a massive state that needs to be handled, but you know what? The swamp is really in your backyard. They've been infesting our country since the end of World War II. It was a long game. It was a marathon, not a sprint for them. It was Henry Kissinger and Rockefeller and Brzezinski and the Crown deciding that a cultural elite, a group of people that were a super class, according to their Council of Foreign Relations, an oligarch of billionaires, were surely more preferable to run this country than we, the people of the United States. And the dismantling of our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and the chipping away of our inalienable rights has been happening slowly but surely ever since. The pandemic took us to a new level. It woke us up. It stirred something in our hearts that we knew was true. It was that something terrible had happened to this country, and it was coming from within. We have a country right now that is captured by a global public-private partnership that aligns with the Great Reset, the Agenda 2030, and the Fourth Industrial Revolution far more than the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or the will of the people of this nation. They do not want us to be in the way, so they have had us fighting each other, dividing us by race, by gender, by color, by class, by creed, by what we believe, what we see, if we got a vaccine, if we believe in abortion. They have us divided by so much when the truth is, you need to see them, okay? And the good news is that we do see them now. But there is a group of people, billionaire oligarch class, that are treating the United States of America like they are the parent company, and we, the people, are just lucky they let us live here. None of our money is going back into this country or the things we care about. Wars are being fought all over the world for profit, and we're the ones paying for it, and innocent lives are being slaughtered all over planet Earth for a small group of people who are working towards chaos and confusion and conflict until we give up and we surrender and we say, you know what, put us on your digital infrastructure from birth to death, track, trace, and surveillance. Watch where we go, watch what we do, watch our children, watch how we travel, watch how we spend our days, watch how we think, and watch what we say. Well, that is not America, and that is not planet Earth that God planned for anyone on this planet. There are no super classes or super people. There are individuals all over this country and the world who believe in freedom and liberty and doing unto others and allowing people to find their full potential without getting in the way or trapping them in debt slavery or keeping them in surveillance states through the internet where they don't even tell you what they're doing with your data. That is not American. That is not America. So please, I have a new book out called Americans Anonymous, Restoring Power to the People, One Citizen at a Time, because I believe that we, me and you and everyone in this room, are way more powerful than we have been led to believe. We can do so much more if we just step out, get involved in our neighborhoods, get involved in our communities, take ownership of where we are. Get together with like-minded folks all over this country, start freedom groups. It's not left and right, that's been gone a long time. It is not Republican and Democrat, that is a total farce. What it is either you love the United States of America and demand that we remain a sovereign, free nation guided by the people of this country, or you will vote for somebody who will give the last breath of this country while she is in office to the globalist billionaire oligarchy elite and the global public-private partnership. Please, if you can, take a look at the Mel K Show website, our resource page, and do as much research as you can, because we need Paul Revere's in every neighborhood, in every town, in every county, in every state. This is not a normal election. This will decide not the fate of America, but frankly, the fate of the world. We have to make peace with the world. We have to find a better way forward financially, and we have to put a lot of criminals into prison. And I will tell you right now, most of them are within and have gotten away with this since 1963, and it is time for transparency. It is time to clean house, and it is time to stop promoting the criminals to higher powers of office and to start putting in real American citizens who love this nation, who love their neighbors, and who love this world and the people in it, and who praise everyone out there that is fighting and working and doing their part, because it's for God and country. And though I believe God wins, I do believe he is waiting for every single one of us to light that spark he put in front of us and inside us, and to find the way forward, to be the heroes in our own lives, the leaders into a beautiful future, and to get through this together as a team united for America, for freedom, and for the world. So please check out Americans Anonymous, Restoring Power to the People, one citizen at a time. I break down all of these concepts, how we got here, the addiction to conflict and chaos that has been keeping us divided, while really it is the people that are dividing us that we should be looking at. It is not your neighbor. They are very, very aware. They are very clear. They run the lobbyists. They run the 501c3s. They run the NGOs. Their fingers are in all of the UN, World Economic Forum tentacles, all the way up to the Bank of International Settlements. They do not represent us. They have no place calling shots for the United States of America. That's my job and your job. So I hope you enjoy Americans Anonymous. I really wish I was there. I love this event. I'm sure you guys are having the best time. The Poconos is the greatest, and Rob and I are so sad we're not there. But thank you so much for listening to me. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And on November 5th, vote for yourself. Vote for freedom. Vote for liberty. Vote for justice. And please, vote for Donald Trump.
All right, yes, Mel K, thank you to her for joining us on a video. We wish she could have been here, but what a beautiful message, and how true, too, right? Globalist infiltration into our country. And next up, we have another special message. It'll again be on video, pre-recorded by Colonel Allen West. Colonel Allen West was a former Florida congressman for the 22nd Congressional District, and a veteran and hero who served our nation. Let's watch his video. Thank you. Allen West. All right, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately we have a technical difficulty with the video from Colonel Allen West, but I invite you all to please research who Colonel Allen West is, and please follow him on social media if you're on there. Check out his websites. Great patriot who fought for our country, loves our country very much, and served in the United States Congress. For our next guest is Jim Ostrowski, and he's going to be introduced by Pastor Bob Pyle. Let's welcome Pastor Bob Pyle. Introduce Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'd rather be here than the best mental institution in America. This place is for real. We love liberty. We love freedom. Why, we even love football, but this is more important than Sunday afternoon NFL football.
The man I'm about to introduce is from Buffalo, New York, and the Bills are playing the New Jersey Jets tomorrow night. I'm going to try to get him to stay, but I doubt if he will, because he brought his wife with. And he is a man of honor, a lawyer. His father was a judge. And all the guys my age that I've met said, you don't want to go in front of Judge Ostrowski a second time. So I bring to you one of the finest men from a great city, the great city of Buffalo, New York, that's building a real big stadium. And someday we're going to have some kind of a Holy Ghost rally there. And by the way, we're going to invite the Moon Brothers. Thank God for the Moon Brothers. I met their father a few years before I met them. I traveled to 22 countries with their dad. I know how much he loves liberty. And he imparted that into his sons. And this is what we need to give our children: liberty, justice for all, freedom. And Jim Ostrowski, who, please come to the platform, Jim. He has written 12 books. There he is. And his website is libertymovement.org.
That's true. Take those papers with you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. This is fantastic. Speaking of the Bills, where else would you rather be than right here, right now, defending the Second Amendment? So I'm not going to waste any time. I only have 10 minutes to talk about the most important political issue in the world, the right to bear arms. No worries. I can state the case for that right in 80 seconds. The biggest problem human beings have faced in the last 10,000 years is gang violence. Government is the biggest gang. Around 1750, the libertarians of the time proposed that ordinary citizens have a right to bear arms to protect themselves against criminal gangs and tyrannical governments. It worked where it was tried, and gang and government violence was dramatically reduced. The amazing, monumental, historical success of the right to bear arms is one of the best-kept secrets of all time. Then comes the gun control movement around 1960, whose goal is to return humanity to a state of helplessness against tyrannical government and criminal gangs by slowly but surely destroying our right to bear arms. The gun control movement is not concerned about reducing violence, since gun control is itself a form of violence, government gun violence. Their concern is to eliminate the only real obstacle to endless government growth, a well-armed citizenry. The gun control movement is a well-funded, sophisticated propaganda campaign that endlessly repeats one big lie: that the United States is an unusually violent country because the Second Amendment makes possible a well-armed civilian population. My new book, Exposing the Two Big Lies of the Gun Control Movement, proves conclusively that this is false. And if the Second Amendment movement joins me in exposing this lie, we can end the gun control movement once and for all. So I could stop right there, but I won't give up a chance to talk to this wonderful group of people for another 8 minutes and 40 seconds. Let's begin at the beginning. Liberty is the greatest political idea mankind has ever had. Sadly, when we look closely at the history of the human race, we find that liberty is very rare and tyranny is the norm. The pre-founding fathers, the old British Whigs, the British levelers, the very first libertarians, first propounded the concept of liberty around 1650 after mankind had suffered under tyranny for thousands of years. So yes, liberty, the right to do what you wish with what you own, is the most important and highest political value. But the more important question is, how do we achieve liberty? Let's examine the range of options. 1, we'll give government all the power and all the guns, and they will guarantee our liberty. I'm afraid that is the most common approach throughout history, and that's why history is a bloodbath. Option 2, voting is the key that will guarantee our liberty, right? Not so much. The last election that resulted in a significant increase in liberty for American citizens across the board was, any guesses? 1800. 224 years ago. Worse yet, as I asked the U.S. Court of Appeals in a Second Amendment case, what happens if they cancel the elections? No response was forthcoming. In fact, history provides numerous examples of canceled elections or collapsed democracies, including Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Castro's Cuba. Option 3. A better idea. We will put words on paper that say the government must protect our liberty and store that piece of paper in the National Archives and put it on display for tourists, and that will save us. Sorry. Constitutionalism doesn't work, which is why, since 1913, we have had a completely different form of government, a permanent, progressive, big government, welfare warfare state that concedes no limits to its powers, as shown by the lockdown, and that is completely alien to anything imagined by the Founding Fathers. But all along, we had the very same paper constitution entertaining the tourists in Washington. Long story short, the problem with constitutions is there is no way to enforce them short of war if the government ignores them, which they do all the time. However, if you need a war to guarantee words on paper, what was the point of putting them on paper in the first place? Relying on the government as the sole enforcer of its own promise to guarantee liberty is a dumb idea that has never worked and can never work. Let's add this factor to the mix. The natural tendency of government as the only true monopoly in society is to grow continuously until it grows so large that it destroys the society upon which it predates. In all of human history, only one factor has proven to be strong enough to resist this natural tendency towards endless government growth: the right to bear arms. Hoping against hope that the government does the right thing doesn't work. Voting doesn't work. Constitutions don't work. The only thing that works, has worked, or will work to save us from the endless, constant, continual growth of government towards its inevitable outcome of totalitarianism is the right to bear arms. Here's the problem in a nutshell. Liberty is the best political idea humanity ever had. It is also the worst marketed idea we've ever had. Similarly, the best specific idea of liberty in human history, the right to bear arms, is also one of the worst marketed political ideas of all time. If the purpose of the Second Amendment movement is to educate Americans about the true purpose and efficacy of the right to bear arms, it has failed miserably, since according to Pew Research, most Americans think we need more, not fewer, gun laws. If the purpose of the Second Amendment movement is to stop the endless onslaught of new gun control laws, it has failed miserably. There were 103 new gun laws passed in 2023, and there are 47 proposed gun laws on the website of every town for gun safety. We are not winning. We are losing. And we are 1 or 2 presidential elections away from having no constitutional right to bear arms at all. The gun control movement, sorry folks, don't shoot the messenger. The gun control movement runs circles around the Second Amendment movement. They are extremely well funded. They have a ruthless rapid response team, and they dominate social media with an endless stream of brilliant propaganda. So far as I can tell, the gun control movement has free rein to spread their lies and disinformation online, while the Second Amendment movement is largely AWOL. It's as if only one army showed up at Gettysburg on July 1st, 1863, and declared victory. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. In my new book, Exposing the Two Big Lies of the Gun Control Movement, I do thoroughly expose the movement, explain how it's funded by Democratic billionaires hiding behind castle walls and armed guards, but wanting to disarm the rest of us. I explain its true agenda, which has nothing to do with reducing violence, since gun control is a form of violence itself, and everything to do with taking away the only thing that has ever restrained government, a well-armed civilian population. Moreover, I identify, dissect, and refute the two big lies of the gun control movement, and I do it with statistics that are based on reliable published sources. The first big lie is that street crime is the main source of violence in America. False. As I prove in the book, over 99% of aggressive gun violence in this country is government gun violence. And I'm talking about, thank you, I'm talking about government violence completely unrelated to protecting liberty or keeping the peace. There are about 300,000 gun crimes each year, but the government commits or threatens to commit, not millions, not billions, but trillions of acts of aggression against Americans each year. Don't believe me? Read the book. It's all in the book. The second big lie is that because of the Second Amendment, the U.S. is an unusually violent country. This is another big lie refuted in the book. In fact, as proven by a sophisticated statistical analysis of 165 countries, the U.S. is not unusually violent, but it's unusually peaceful. If you factor in all forms of violence, if you factor in all the forms of violence, the United States is an unusually peaceful country. Why haven't we heard this before? We are the most peaceful, large, and diverse country, and the 27th most peaceful country out of 165, behind a few dozen mostly small, monocultural European countries and/or U.S. protectorates. So it turns out that the gun control movement is essentially one big lie repeated endlessly, a lie that is definitively proven to be false in my new book. The gun control movement wants to destroy the right to bear arms and revert to our age-old predicament in which the individual was helpless against the gang and the government. As it is one of the most sophisticated propaganda efforts of modern times, it is a serious threat to succeed in its mission. In my new book, the sinister agenda, motives, and lies of the gun control movement are exposed, dissected, refuted, and replaced by a revolutionary new system for identifying and quantifying all the main sources and causes of violence in this world. That accomplished, we can propound, pursue, and execute the 13 concrete proposals listed in the book, including constitutional carry, ending the forever foreign wars, thank you, and enacting a global right to bear arms. A global right to bear arms. These proposals will significantly decrease violence and increase peace and liberty being the exact same thing. We can replace the failed gun control movement with a violence control movement and build a more peaceful world. Who's with me? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for inviting me. This is outstanding and awesome. I really appreciate it.
High five, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, the band is on. Saved by Grace is coming up. They're going to set up. Come on up, guys.
Gonna need a couple seconds.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll entertain you with a few thoughts. They're from Erie, Pennsylvania. Did you hear who's coming to Erie tomorrow night?
Kamala.
Tell them who's coming to Erie.
Kamala.
Hey, we had a rally yesterday in Washington, D.C. 250,000 women were on their knees praying in Washington, D.C. on the mall, plus men and children. You didn't hear a thing about it in the media. People are praying, and prayer works. How many know there's a God in heaven? And he reigns supremely over all things. And we're going to give him the glory today. And this band's going to glorify God. And we're going to keep America free. We're going to keep America armed. And we're going to keep America safe. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Oh, yes. Jim is signing books in the back. Jim has also wrote another book.
If you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Finish your statement right over there. Thank you.
Jim has some other books.
The other podium.
This podium.
Whoops. Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir.
Where is Jim signing books? Okay, right in the back if anybody wants to get a book. He also has some other books out. One's called Government Schools Are Bad for Your Kids. I have not read it, but he knows the parochial school system, and I'm glad. I believe our J.D. Vance, was he homeschooled? I don't know, but J.D. Vance is coming to Williamsport this Wednesday, the hillbilly from Kentucky and Dayton, Ohio, or whatever. So if any of you are free on Wednesday, come on over to Williamsport. We got room for you. That's over in my neck of the woods, in the mountains.
Are we talking about J.D. Vance?
J.D. Vance.
Hey, how about J.D. Vance,
Yes.
right? President Trump, J.D. Vance, right?
Sorry.
Amen. Sorry.
Great job, guys. Thank you.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you. You're going to go to the middle. I'll stay here.
That one is going to work?
Yeah. Okay. I think we're just going to start. The Stand in the Gap Foundation emerged in response to the events of January 6, 2021, a day that underscored the pressing need for justice reform in America. The treatment and legal challenges faced by January 6ers shed a stark light on the flaws within the justice system. The pivotal moment ignited a passionate commitment to address these issues and stand up for the rights of those affected. Stand in the Gap was founded to provide essential support for individuals navigating the justice system, advocate for justice reform, and serve as a beacon of hope amid the challenging circumstances. Before J6, many weren't aware of the systemic problems that plagued our justice system. The treatment of the J6 defendants, as well as their families and advocates, exposed the harsh realities and injustices that had persisted for far too long. It became painfully clear that a system designed to uphold justice was in many cases failing those who it meant to protect. The organization recognized the urgency of addressing these pressing issues, of providing tangible support to individuals navigating the complexities of the justice system and advocating for meaningful change. Stand in the Gap was established to fill these gaps, to be a source of hope and assistance amid challenging circumstances, and to stand resolutely for justice reform in America. Their journey is rooted in the belief that the American justice system can and must be fair, equitable, and compassionate. The treatment and legal challenges faced by J6ers shed a stark light and flaws within the system. Ms. Sarah McAfee is the founder of Stand in the Gap and is the wife of former Deputy Sheriff Ronald McAfee, who is currently incarcerated with audio and video proof that speaks the truth of what happened that day. Whatever you choose to believe, we must all ask ourselves why the court system would not allow the audio and video to be heard and seen in court. Miss Sarah Maccabee could not be with us today, but sends the video that speaks volumes of her family's personal story, a story that was denied to be seen and heard. Go to standinthegap.foundation to find out more about how to help. We warn you that this video you're about to see is not for the faint of heart. Our goal as Americans and Christians should always be to provide a voice for the voiceless, picking up those who have fallen and standing for those in need, reimagining a world full of second chances, giving grace beyond measure, and receiving true justice for all. Thank you.
Despite audio and video evidence showing former Tennessee Sheriff's Deputy Ronald Colton Maccabee did not assault a police officer on the Capitol steps of January 6, as alleged by prosecutors. If you listen to the audio as you watch the video, you find out he was helping a Capitol policeman who was down. And yet this judge has the audacity to say we're not listening to the audio so he could hear that evidence. Why wouldn't you listen to the evidence?
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know, my name is Ken Nuss. I'm part of the America Project. Unfortunately, Carl and Amanda are in Florida, and they couldn't make it for this time due to the hurricane. One of the things that the America Project does is we travel across the U.S. and we educate people about the injustices of J6, the horrors of the open border, and obviously the election integrity concerns that we all have. So with that, first of all, I'm a first responder. I've been a first responder since 1994. If I would have gone to D.C. on January 6th, I would have been in there, and I would have been doing what Ron did. And any of us here that would have went there did not expect that to happen. So this could happen to any of us. I know you hear it all the time, but watching this, really, it hit me. I've gotten to know Sarah on a personal level, and so is Todd out here. You're going to hear from him in a little bit. But when you talk to these J6ers and you hear how they're affected, it's gut-wrenching. I mean, not only is there, a lot of these families, the breadwinners were put in jail. These people couldn't pay their grocery bills, their oil bills, their mortgages. Like, their life has been turned upside down. I've been fortunate enough to work with the America Project and J6, a lot of the J6ers. And today we want to bring up a J6er. His name is Gino. He's got another horrible story. And Gino, if you want to come on up here, I want to introduce him. I don't have his stats, so you got to let me read it. Hold on. Do you have it? Where is it? Well, I know this is Gino Di Giovanni, and he's 43 years old, and he has more hair than I do. I do know that. Actually, I met Gino in Long Island probably about a month ago. We were at the America First warehouse. And if any of you were ever able to go to Long Island, it is the most patriotic place in America. Joe the Box, Joe, if you're watching, or when I send this to you, you're doing an amazing job there. So Gino is from Derby, Connecticut. He's the owner of Di Giovanni & Sons Construction for 22 years. Chairman of the Derby GOP. He's elected to the Board of Aldermen in 2021, and he was a mayoral candidate, GOP candidate, in 2023. He, too, is a J6 political prisoner. He served sentence at the FCI Danbury with Steve Bannon, and he is on the City Planning and Zoning, he's the City Planning and Zoning Chairman. So with that, guys, I'd ask you give him your full attention, and this story is going to piss you off.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for that introduction. And I'd like to bring you back a little bit and tell you how I got to that day. So after the 2020 election, I was hunting in Maine at our family hunting cabin, and we had this little 20-inch TV, and we were watching the election. We went to bed like most people at 10 o'clock, but a friend of mine at the time said, "How did he lose votes?" And we were watching the TV, and it was something like 4.2, and then it went to 3.8, and at that time, we had no idea. We just thought it was an error on the TV. Well, then fast forward, and we find out that it was live on TV, and the votes were coming off. Now, when everybody knows when you tally votes, you don't go down, you go up. So after the 2020 election, I was listening to General Flynn, and he was making a speech, and he said, you have to get involved, and you have to get involved locally. So I had called the state of Connecticut and told them that I wanted to run for office. And I was just a business owner. I was a regular, average, everyday person. So I really didn't know how to get involved and how to run for office. So I called the state. They told me where to go. I went to the website, figured out how I get on the ballot. And I decided in 2021 to run for office. So January 6th happened. I was at the Capitol. And after that day, I decided to run in that November of 2021 election. I opened up a campaign. I go through all the, the paperwork, figured out how to do it, and then I won the 2021 election for the Board of Aldermen. It was the first time that a GOP Republican candidate won in my district, or what we call wards, in 30 plus years. So I took office in December, and in January of 2022, since that day, I never spoke to FBI, never called and questioned me. Nobody came, ever asked me what happened that day. And then fast forward a little bit, it was Halloween of 2022. So October of 2022, NBC News came to a meeting at City Hall, and it was a late meeting. It was like 10 o'clock when they were there. And they came and they threw file folders on the table as soon as the meeting was over. I didn't even have a chance to get up. And they showed all these pictures, and they asked, is this you in the picture? And I said, yeah, that's me in the picture. And they said, were you at the Capitol that day? I said, once again, yes, that's me in the picture. Well, they sat on that story for over like 30 days before it actually came out. And it came out on a Friday, and they made such a huge deal about an elected official was at January 6th, and it was national news. And, at that point, they did the story, but I still haven't been contacted. And I'm going to get into the details about what happened that day that I was there. But to that point, I still never got contacted by the FBI. First of all, I didn't touch anything. I went through an open door. The police officers let me in, and I was out in 8 minutes on the other side. So up until that point, no one ever questioned me. I didn't know what was really going on at that point. So in January, so now I sit on the board, which is the legislative body. So come to find out, after this story broke and it's all over national news, CNN, everybody picks it up, I found out that I was the first person to get elected to the legislative body, not just in the state, but in the country. So after January 6th happened, no one ran for office and actually won. Well, they found out that I won. So this became like, the biggest thing ever, which, to my surprise, they made it a big point about it. So as I fast forward a little bit more, January 2023, I decide that I'm going to run for mayor of my town in Connecticut. So I declare, thank you, I appreciate that. I declare, and at this point, I still haven't been contacted by the FBI, haven't been interviewed. I haven't, in no official capacity, had anybody come to me and ask me questions about January 6th at that time. So after I declare to run for mayor, I still don't hear from the FBI or the DOJ until 2 weeks before my primary. They ended up arresting me 2 weeks before the GOP primary that I was in for mayor. And after they arrested me, I had to turn myself in. But after they arrested me, I was even told by the FBI agents that were on the ground that they reviewed everything, and that what I told them at that time, where I went in, I was let in, and where I left, all checked out. It was on video, obviously, the whole time. And the reason why nobody came and contacted me is because I didn't do anything wrong. And I find it very odd that they wait 2 weeks before my primary. So after they arrest me, it's back in the news again. They want me to drop out of the race. And I basically told them no, I wasn't going to drop out of the race. And I went on to win that primary. So after I win the primary, I go on to the November election, and the opponent that I had just beat, that I'd just finds, I guess, a loophole or some type of, other option where he could get signatures to be on the independent line on the November ballot, which he ends up doing that. And then go to November, I end up losing the race, and the Democrat walks in pretty much for free. But the point I wanted to make today is that the government will do whatever they want to do if they want you that bad. It doesn't matter if I'm on the right, the left, or the center. They will come after you, and they will take everything you have. So this whole debacle that I've been involved in has cost my family, my business. They have taken anything of monetary value from me. Between the lawyer and lost contracts through my business, it's cost me almost $1 million through this whole event. I found out what swatting was. I had no idea what that was. And then, especially too on the internet, I mean, they'll come after you with emails and text messages. They even vandalized my house. Now, for people to go this far, it's mind-blowing to me that people would actually go out and do it. But when you go and you dig a little bit deeper, you find out that there's groups out there that are actually being told to do this and being provocative to other certain groups. And, they go out and they want to make your life miserable so that you bend the knee and you roll over and you do what they say because you're afraid or you're scared. And we just have to be very conscious of what's really going on behind the scenes here. And a lot of people don't know exactly what's going on. So that's why I'm here to try to voice what happened to me and what happened to a lot of January 6th people so that everybody knows the truth. Because you go onto social media or you go onto the mainstream news, and it's not all the truth. They only tell you a half of the story. They only tell you a little bit. And then they want to deny the facts, but then when you tell the facts, because it happened to me, then they say that they need to fact check you. And we all seen what happened with J.D. Vance and when he did the interviews, how they just go after one side. So during my case, and I have to be careful what I say too, because even though I served my full time, my full sentence, I'm still on probation till August of next year. But I got charged with 4 charges. They were all misdemeanor charges. One was parading, one was equivalent to like a disorderly conduct. All those charges got dropped except for one, and it was remaining in a restricted building. Now, I was ready to fight it all the way to trial if I had to, but by the time the bills were, coming in from the attorney, the Department of Justice gave my lawyer and the team that was working on my case 7 terabytes of information. Now, 7 terabytes is a lot of files and video and so forth. I didn't even know what 7 terabytes were, but for somebody like myself, you would never be able to pay an attorney and a team of attorneys to fight that because of all the information they want to drown you in paperwork. It's really a story of David and Goliath, and it's just not the way it should be. So I pled guilty to remaining in a restricted building, and my attorney talked to the prosecutor, and I was supposed to get a $500 fine, some community service. The day I go to get sentenced, it was in April of 2024. I go there, and let me back up 1 minute. The day that I had to turn myself in was the only day that I ever walked into a courtroom. That courtroom was in New Haven, Connecticut, where I had to turn myself in. All the court proceedings and anytime I had to go to court was done in my lawyer's office on a Zoom call. The court reporter, the judge, the prosecutor, or the district attorney, they were all on Zoom in either their office or where have you, but I never once stepped in a courtroom except for the day I turned myself in. In my opinion, I mean, this whole, at least for me personally, this whole thing was a kangaroo court. I was never allowed to speak, never had the opportunity to speak until I was sentenced. So the day that I had to go to court to get sentenced, the prosecutor and the judge both said the same words, and the words stuck out to me, that I wasn't remorseful, and that I basically wasn't sorry for what I did. And this type of discussion took place between the prosecutor and then the judge. And as I was listening to this, I'm telling my lawyer, when did I have the opportunity to do that? I only went to court 4 or 5 times, number one. Number two, I was never allowed to speak. And number three, they're not mind readers. How do they know I wasn't remorseful? I mean, and it was leading up that in the end, I ended up getting sentenced to federal prison for a misdemeanor, remaining in a restricted building, which is equivalent to a traffic ticket. So it's like if you were in a state park and it closes at sundown. Well, if you were in there and it's sundown, the ranger would give you a ticket with a fine on it, you would pay it, and that would be the end of it. Well, that's what it was equivalent to. It was a misdemeanor, and I got sentenced to 2 weeks in federal prison in FCI Danbury for a federal misdemeanor charge. And all my charges were all misdemeanor charges. So the headlines in the newspaper says, GOP candidate for mayor and an elected official gets prison sentence, or something along those lines. So if any everyday person, they read that, they look at it that I got sentenced to federal prison, which I did, but it was for a misdemeanor charge. And I found out when I was there that up until now, that myself and Steve Bannon were the only 2 people to plead guilty. I'm not sure if he pled or if he had a trial, so at least I pled guilty to a misdemeanor, and that we're serving federal prison time for misdemeanors. Now, no one, an everyday person, would just read that headline and assume now that I'm a felon. So this whole thing was so that they could, take my character, and so that I would never run again, and to discourage all of you from running, because that's what they want to do. I know for a fact that in my town, I've been active in my community for over 25 years. I was born and raised there. I was part of the I'm an Eagle Scout. I was part of the Boy Scouts. I did a lot of volunteer work. So all the people in my area in the state of Connecticut, they know who I am as a person. And once I went on a couple of podcasts, I did some interviews, and it's been an ongoing thing now for the last couple of years. But I showed the video of me entering the Capitol. NBC News did the hit job piece on me, and they showed me walking into the Capitol from the opposite angle, and you don't see the 4 Capitol police officers standing at the door. As I walked by the Capitol police officers, I turned around and asked one of them where to go. That was the first time I was ever at the Capitol. I was never there before. And until the court case came out with, whereabouts and the technical, where I made entrance into the Capitol, I had no idea where I actually entered and where I left. But I entered the Upper West Terrace door, and I asked the police officer where to go, and he told me, go through the door, go up the stairs, and follow the velvet ropes. And I did that, and I walked out the other side. I did exactly what he told me. If he had told me to turn around and go back out, you can't come in here, I would have turned around and go back out. But what people don't understand is the day there were not 100,000 people there. There were not 200,000 people there. There were millions of people there. I was under the Washington Monument when I watched President Trump start and finish his speech, and then I walked down to the Capitol there. So in between the Capitol and the Washington Monument, I don't know, it was like maybe a mile, and it was a sea of people. I don't know how many people that is, but I know it's more than 100,000 people. So even that, the media lied, that it was just a bunch of people. Number 2 is that no one, and at least as far as I know, since I looked up last, this was at the beginning of the year, no one has gotten charged with insurrection or sedition. They even tried the 14th Amendment against me like they did President Trump as well, saying that anyone that's charged with insurrection can't hold an elected position, and then, so forth and so on. But they tried everything to get me not to run. and to really have me resign from the position that I actually held there. So I got sentenced to 2 weeks in federal prison. I was in FCI Danbury with Steve Bannon. And when I went to prison there, Steve got there, I think it was a couple weeks before I did. But in talking with him there, I told him my story. And he said, Gino, that's one of this story. He didn't really hear about stories like that because I was an elected official when they did arrest me. I wasn't prior to that. So Kash Patel wrote a book called Government Gangsters. And I was aware of the book, but I wasn't aware that Steve Bannon and his team from War Rooms Films, they produced a movie alongside of the book. And so he put me in contact with some of his people, and I've been going and speaking at the movie premiere and telling people my story and doing some Q&As because a lot of people don't understand what really went on and what happened. So as time goes on, that's how I became friends with Ken. And it's really been a family environment over the last couple of months now that I've been traveling and speaking to people. And we just have to make sure that we remember one thing. This is, at least in my lifetime, is the most influential election. If we don't vote and you don't get your family and your friends to vote, we're going to lose this country. It's very, very important that you tell not just one, but 10 of your friends, make sure they get out and vote, make sure they're registered, vote early if you have to, or if your state offers it. And, if President Trump doesn't get in, we're going to be in a world of hurt because these people know what they're doing. They've been planning this for a long, long time. And if they could take just a simple, everyday business guy, which I was, turn my life upside down, threaten my family, take everything that I have from me, all over an election in the city of Derby and the state of Connecticut under the big blue umbrella, they can do it to anyone. And that's what they want. They want to discourage people from going out and voting. They want to discourage people from running for office. They want to discourage people from going out to the Board of Education and getting involved in your school boards and in your community. And they want people like me to be made up an example of. And they want you to be afraid, and they want you to fear running for office or getting involved. This could happen to you. But let me tell you something. In the Bible, 365 times it says fear not. And that's one for every day. So we should not fear, and we should get involved locally, because according to General Flynn, that's what got me started in this movement. It got me started and getting involved in elected positions and volunteer positions in my community was because I listened to that speech from General Flynn. And he said, get involved locally, and that's where it all begins. And that was the truth. And I took the guidance from him, not knowing where I was going to go or end up. But I took it, and it was the first time I got elected, Republican got elected in that ward in over 30 years. So it could happen, and it could happen to you guys. So with that, I'd like to wrap that up in closing. Please make sure we get our friends, our family to go out and vote and support the J6 prisoners any way we can. And for that, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Obviously, Gino, our hearts go out to you. I can't say it any better than he did. So another person that I met in my travels is my good friend Todd. So Todd, I'm going to let him talk a little bit about what we're doing here to help stand in the gap and the J6ers. And we also met at the America First warehouse. Good job, Joe the Box. So with no further ado, I want to introduce Todd Gerhardt from Make Honey Great Again.
Thank you, Ken. I actually met Sarah McAbee 2 years ago in Nashville. We do the Reawaken tour with General Flynn and Mike Lindell and Clay Clark. I've seen that video too many times, and I still break down and cry. I travel with her. I take her around the country, and we try to get this story out. Folks, we are the voice for the voiceless. These people are voiceless.
I own this company called Make Honey Great Again, and we donate a lot of our revenue to different charities. There's a guy in Minnesota that has our honey that you guys know very well, Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell was shut down by the big box stores because he supports President Trump and he supports these election results that were not fair. And he was sued for $1.3 billion by Dominion voting machines. He's still going through this. So when I travel with Sarah and I watch that video, we do a lot of things with Ashley Babbitt's mom. I asked Sarah one day, I said, Sarah, if Colt had to do it over again, would he do it? The same thing. He goes, yes. Colt was a police officer in Tennessee. He's trained to help people. What a lot of people don't realize, Roseanne Boylan was on drugs 7 years ago, and the government cremated her body immediately after that because she was actually murdered. She was not on drugs, but when you're cremated, there's nothing they can do. So we travel the country, and we have that bottle of honey out there, and what's happened is there's a town in Texas called Fredericksburg, Texas, and there's a J6 person out there that donated land, and we now have a developer that builds tiny houses. And we're building tiny houses in Fredericksburg, Tennessee, and we're taking the money from this little bottle of honey that a lot of people use to raise money to do that. There was a J6er here on Friday night with us. He recently got the knock on the door. He goes to court November 15th. His friend is named Ty Scott. He's a retired NASCAR driver from Pennsylvania. Ty Scott just got the knock on the door also. Ty Scott donated one of his race cars to be auctioned off. It's going to go on online auction. It's a $50,000 World of Outlaws Super Sprint dirt car race to help get this project going. We have a picture of it out there. When Sarah and I travel, we were with Kash Patel when he did the story. He broke his book out, and we were in Florida at a place called The Villages. And I've heard stories about this, about Nancy Pelosi and what went on that day, and you don't want to believe it. But Kash Patel told the story that he was with President Trump on January 4th in the Situation Room and called Pelosi to get the 10,000 National Guardsmen there. And Sarah's standing to my side, and Kash Patel said January 6th would have never happened if they did what we asked them to do. They never responded. On January 6th at 9:30 in the morning, Nancy Pelosi called Kash Patel's cell phone and said, quote, "Where are those troops you wanted?" And they said, "Ma'am, you never got back to us." Now, he took the phone call, and she said, "Get those troops in here so we can open up my congressional cafeteria for my congressional members." That's what she was worried about, was the cafeteria. And it was hard because I had to stand there and hold on to Sarah with tears coming down her face because it should have never happened. Her husband is sentenced 8 years in prison. He's in Minnesota in federal prison for 8 years. And what you don't see in that video was he saved 2 police officers. He got his shoulder broken because he was just protecting fellow police officers. They're still knocking on doors. We heard a number the other day that if Kamala Harris gets in, when she's not, they're going to arrest another 10,000 people. I'll leave you with this note because this was probably the worst story. I get a phone call about a year ago. A couple calls me from Texas. "I hear you help people. Will you help us?" This couple, and I met them in Miami, they went there to pray. They were never near the Capitol. They were way in the back. And Jaleese and Mark Middleton, I said, "Jaleese, what happened?" Well, we were holding hands, and then another couple came up to us, and we were in a little circle. We didn't know them. They had their head down, and she felt piercing pains in her right wrist because they were beating them with the batons to try to break them up. Well, you're normally going to defend yourself and try to, I'll say, fight them off. They got convicted. And they're looking at a 20-year prison sentence for assaulting a federal police officer. They want to silence us. You hear President Trump talk about this, that they're coming after us and through him. He is going to pardon most of them, not all of them, but we have to get him in. But they still need a life afterwards. So if you get the honey or you do whatever you can do, we have our cards out there to help Sarah's cause, these houses. The plan is to do more of these across the country. We're on a lot of shows. You know, I did a show last week with Anastasia, and she shared with me, she's interviewed 200-some people. It was the first time she ever cried doing an interview with Sarah Maccabee. It's just heart-wrenching when you watch that video. There are videos, and I wear this, never taken off in 2 years, Ashley Babbitt's bracelet. There are videos of somebody lifting her up by the back of her shirt, lifting her through that window when she got shot through the neck. And there's also videos of her pushing people back, say, get out of here. She's a veteran. She's an Air Force. But she was trying to get people to leave, and they wouldn't leave. And somebody picked her up and put her through the window. And unfortunately, she didn't make it. But I want to thank you for your time. That video, guys, we are the voice for the voiceless, because right now they are voiceless. And as Gino said, it could be anybody. I have friends that were there. They're terrified of a knock on the door. It is a 99.4% conviction rate. It's not a jury of your own peers in Washington, D.C. And I'll share this real quick. Sarah was telling me one of the attorneys stole $100,000 from her. They took a $100,000 retainer and basically didn't do anything. I'm doing an event in Florida, and this guy happened to be there. And I went right up to him in the middle of a conversation with some people, and I grabbed his hand. I said, hi, I'm Todd. I'm friends with Sarah Maccabee. And he looked at me, and I go, you remember Sarah. You took $100,000 from her and didn't do anything. And the color went out of his face. And before he took off, he goes, well, it wasn't the whole 100. That's what his response was. Okay, these attorneys, you're wasting your money, sending money until President Trump gets in. It's a 99.4% conviction rate. So anyhow, we're out here. You get the honey. It's something cool. Mike Lindell, everybody has it. We want to thank everybody for having us here. Anastasia taking the time to interview Sarah. And we're going to keep fighting for the voice, because we are the voice of the voiceless.
Schuyler Dunsing is the founder and the president of the United States Patriot Society, a national nonprofit organization defending constitutional liberty. Schuyler is also a college student who studied at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where he started numerous student organization chapters that helped bring the conservative student voice back to Madison. In addition to his academic endeavors and work with the U.S. Patriot Society, Schuyler is the founder and the lead pastor of Guardians of Divinity Church and founder of the American Environmental Research Organization. Schuyler?
Well, thank you, Anastasia, for that beautiful introduction. I believe certainly much more than I deserve, so thank you very much. And I want to thank every single one of you for being here today. And I asked earlier, can you feel the Spirit of God working through our movement? Can you feel the Spirit of God working through the Freedom Festival, working through the entire world? We saw our great patriots from around the world who care so much about our freedom. Let's care about our freedom, too, as Americans, because if freedom dies here, freedom dies everywhere. We cannot let that happen. So I want to say hello again, patriots. Now is your speaker over here, not just your MC. And it's fantastic to be here with you in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And I got to say, I'm from northern Wisconsin, and you have a lot of beautiful trees here. By the way, I've never driven across this whole state. So it's perfect. It's beautiful, what God's creation is. And we came 18 hours from northern Wisconsin to be here. And we wouldn't want to miss it for anything in the world, because when Christian patriots come together in support of our faith and of our country, we cannot be stopped. This is what it's all about. This is how you save America. You show up, you speak out, and you stand proud in defense of the greatest nation on earth, the United States of America, the nation that so many brave men and women have sacrificed for. So thank you to the entire Rod of Iron Ministries family, Brother Sean, Brother Justin, Brother Greg Knoll. Where's Brother Greg Knoll? I saw him outside there. And thank you to Sister Lourdes. Thank you, Sister Lourdes, for the opportunity to speak here. God bless you. Thank you. She calls me her adopted son, and I take that as a great compliment. Thank you, Lourdes. Thank you. And also thank you to the amazing volunteers and so many others. Thank you all. This is a truly fantastic event and celebration of our freedom that you have put together here, and a celebration of God, right? Amen? Amen. And we're very blessed. I'm very humbled to be a part of it, so thank you all. And how about, too, introduced him earlier, Brother Craig Sawyer, Veterans for Child Rescue. Is that a righteous warrior and patriot for God's kingdom, protecting the little ones, Veterans for Child Rescue? The children are worthy, and our young people and our country are under attack. They're under attack by tyranny and evil, the likes of which we have never seen before. Our beloved country is becoming unrecognizable. It is being destroyed by these sick, evil people, and that's exactly what they are. They are evil, sick, twisted people. They're psychopaths. Some of them are pro-depopulation. I mean, what is going on to our country? Did anybody ever think it was going to come to that? Some of our older people, did you ever think years ago that this would come to it? I just turned 24 years old this summer. I didn't even think a few years ago I'd ever see it like this, and they have opened up the floodgates to what looks like hell. It's hell on earth now. And you know, for far too long, a small group of people have controlled our country, and they have trampled our values. They have lied to us, they have abused us, and they have silenced us. Under the radical globalist plan, our society is headed more and more towards tyranny, totalitarianism, and despotism. And further from liberty, individualism, and patriotism, faith, family, and freedom are God-fearing constitutional values that built this country. The corrupt political establishment in our country has abandoned the United States Constitution and declared war on we, the hardworking American taxpayer, we the people. They have forgotten something in the process, though, that is fundamental to being an American. We, the people, do not answer to the government. The government answers to us. But the problem we face as a nation runs deep. Fundamentally, we're in a spiritual war. You see it, that's why you're here. You see it everywhere you go. These demonic, evil people spit at us. It's much deeper than Republican versus Democrat, although there's a big focus on there. And we have an important election coming up on November 5th, don't we? It's deeper than right versus left. It's deeper than conservative versus liberal. This is good versus evil. Just look at what these evil people are doing to our country and to our young people. The radical left communists and fascists, because that's what they are, they're pushing puberty blockers and sex change operations on your children. Drag queens are reading books to kindergartners and elementary school students. That is absurd. Is that not evil? Pornographic books that promote pedophilia and gender confusion have found their way into our school libraries, and we need to get them out of our libraries. They don't belong in the hands of our children in their classrooms, in their libraries, or anywhere. And you know what? If the radical left wants to call me a book banner for that, then I embrace the damn title. I'm a book banner because I don't believe in having sexually explicit material and pornographic material in the hands of our children. These are God's children, and the children are worthy of our protection. And how about our young women and our young girls? They're having to compete against biological men in sports. The dreams of our girls, and you saw it in the Olympics too, by the way. What a mess. They've wrecked that. The dreams of our girls in this country are being crushed by biological men. How is this even happening? And you've got radicals like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz who celebrate that, and they actually put it on a pedestal. Have you seen Kamala's commercials with the drag queens? You've seen them. LGBTQ and the drag queens. That's actually an ad that she's running. Or how about when she endorsed having taxpayer-funded sex change operations for illegal immigrants who are in prison? That's absurd. Or when Tim Walz signed legislation that put tampons in the boys' bathroom as governor of Minnesota. That's why we call him Tampon Tim, by the way. What a sick, perverted, evil weirdo. And he calls Trump, Vance, and the MAGA Republicans and the God-fearing Christian patriots of this country weirdos. Now, that guy's weird for what he's doing, and he's evil. But we see him for what he is. These are evil, sick people. The Kamala Harris, Tim Walz ticket is the most radical presidential ticket in American history. Make no mistake, they are cut from the same exact cloth. They are both progressive communists who hate you, hate this country, and hate your freedom. And by the way, they also hate God. We cannot let them in office, and that is why it is so important that the Patriots of Pennsylvania get out and vote early and vote in person. Make sure you're registered and vote. That's coming up this Tuesday all the way until Election Day. You got to vote early. You got to vote like crazy because this country is being destroyed. These Democrats are ruining the greatest nation on earth. And we can give, this is just an example, we can give all this money to illegal immigrants in foreign countries, but we can't give our own citizens who are just devastated by hurricanes anything more than a few $100s because FEMA is supposedly out of money. And by the way, when you go there to help out as a private company, private corporation, or just an individual, they want to block you. How is FEMA out of money? And how is our own government doing that? Where are our tax dollars going? Don't you want accountability in this country? Where are our tax dollars going? And I'll tell you where they're going. Our tax dollars are funding the hijacking of our country. While you go to work every day, a crooked, corrupt group of people that we happen to call Congress are in Washington sending your money to people that aren't you while we suffer and foot the bill. The border, the trafficking, endless foreign wars, and now come to find out the Democrat Party, that's right, our tax dollars are being laundered and funneled back to fund Democrats through various shell LLCs, shell companies, PACs, and House and Senate leadership funds. I thought these were the people that were supposed to represent us. Our tax dollars are literally being weaponized against us. Now, I think that I speak for all of us when I say this. Enough is enough. We're tired of your tyrannical agenda. We're tired of your intentional stupid spending. We're tired of being ripped off. We're tired of being lied to. And we're tired of your tyrannical agenda that is plaguing the minds of our young people and torturing us as a nation. It is absolutely insane, everything that is going on. Up is down, down is up, left is right, right is left. Nothing in this country makes sense anymore. It is the complete and total perversion of normality. The communists are after your children. They want to destroy their minds, make no mistake. And they're investing where it counts. And I happen to know this. Before Liberty University, where I take classes online, I used to go to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I was an outspoken conservative there. If you know your university, it's a very liberal, left-wing school. And it's actually quite communist, some of the things that they do. And they didn't like me very much. I didn't make a lot of friends there. But that's okay. We have to go into the lion's den, go into these places and push back, so we can actually save the future of our country. But I have the receipts to prove this. In 2001 alone, George Soros gave over $100 million in aid to U.S. government programs. And you know where the majority of that money went? The majority of that $100 million was designated for educational purposes. And it got a lot worse, by the way. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is, that George Soros is investing billions and billions of dollars to influence the minds of our young people? And he's just only one of many who are paying to influence the curriculum in our country, indoctrinate young minds, and radically transform America. The Chinese Communist Party is doing this as well. You know, for a long time, they've been doing it through something called Confucius Institutes. You should look it up if you don't know what it is. And they've also been doing it, too, by making large anonymous donations to centers established at big-name universities. One of them happens to be located right here in Pennsylvania, at the University of Pennsylvania, at the Penn Biden Center. That's right, Penn Biden. That is Joe and Hunter Biden. And that means that one of those institutes and these anonymous donations, millions and millions of dollars, by the way, coming from the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, that means that through places like the Penn Biden Center, the Chinese Communist Party is sneaking into our schools and universities so that they can corrupt the minds of the youth, our young people, feed them Chinese Communist Party propaganda, and train them to hate America and everything this great nation stands for. And I'd be willing to bet, and maybe we should look into this, that out of those anonymous Chinese Communist Party donations to the Penn Biden Center, that the big guy, Joe Biden, we know who the big guy is, Joe Biden, I bet he got his 10% cut of that. And if you remember in 2022, classified documents that Joe Biden took while he was vice president, he didn't have the authority to do that, were found at the same exact university. They were found at the Penn Biden Center. Isn't that convenient? That's interesting how that worked out. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure we have a name for that. I think that's called treason. And we've got a lot of treason going on in Washington, and it's time we clean it up. President Lincoln said it best. We, the people, are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert it. Now, isn't that true? We need to embrace our history and remember what that is. The majority of Washington and the corrupt elites have forgotten that. They think you and I will allow them to abuse us and that there won't be any consequences. Well, to the globalist oligarch tyrants throughout the world who think we're going to surrender our freedoms and bend a knee to their tyranny, I have a message for you on behalf of America's patriots. You came to the wrong country. We happen to like freedom in America, and if it's the will and conviction of the American people to be free, then America will be saved. Now, I refuse to sit idly by and watch this great nation of ours, the nation that I love, the nation that so many have laid down their lives and sacrificed for, the greatest nation on earth. I refuse to sit idly by and watch it burn and be destroyed. And I hope you're with me. I really hope you are, because I cannot do this alone. I am willing to dedicate my life and sacrifice of myself to fight for this country and fight for we, the people, and God. But I need you to back me. I need your support. I need you to get behind me, stand by my side, stand with me, and fight, 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 as President Trump said, against tyranny and evil, because it's right here. Our nation does not have to be a nation that is lost. We can save America, and together we will win. In our unity and resolve, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. There is no evil that we cannot overcome. And there is no tyrannical agenda that we cannot stop. To quote Thomas Paine, we have it in our power to begin the world over again. And as it was for President Reagan in his time, in the face of our communist enemy today, our message is simple. We win, they lose. So, my brothers and sisters, my fellow patriots, God, through the name of Jesus Christ, has anointed us as his followers and his disciples to preach liberty to the captives and free this nation and save America. Together, we are one movement. We are one united people under one glorious flag and our Almighty God. And together, on November 5th, an important day, the most important day in our nation's history, when we elect Donald J. Trump back to the White House, we will remind the world that it was then, is now, and always will be we, the people. God bless you, Pennsylvania. God bless America. Get out and vote and let freedom ring.